Seriously? This is where we would put the intro if we had one.
Yeah, okay. Cartoons and junk.
Oh,
yeah, those happen.
Our childhood happened.
I'll try it, yes. The 90s were a thing, and we were born in it.
90s kids.
Kids for life, everybody else will die.
That's really the first thing we're gonna... That's what we're doing?
Hey, if you weren't born in the 90s, you can unsubscribe and go kill yourself right now.
If you didn't grow up in the 90s, you didn't have a childhood at all. You did not exist as a person if you weren't born in the 90s.
Well, I mean, technically the only people currently experiencing their childhood were born in the 2000s.
That is very true.
But their childhood is kind of garbage now.
Not if they have Boomerang.
Well, still.
Yes, because they have poor quality cartoons. Their childhood is automatically garbage.
Yeah.
Because, like, the shows from the 90s only come on, like, for 2 hours a day, and the rest of the shows are, like, shows from back when I was a slave, like...
I want to ask you a question. Do you really think our childhood was all that quality? Because I went back to watch an episode of Captain Planet the other day, and that is garbage. That is...
Okay. I have to agree with Tori here. Like, a lot of the cartoons from the 90s weren't really that great.
No.
But we thought they were amazing, and I feel like it's going to be the same way with whoever grew up in the 2000s.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, these cartoons are great right now, and then, like, 10 years from now, they're going to be like, why did we watch that?
Johnny Test was so awesome.
No one's going to say that. No one's ever going to say that.
I'm sorry, no one's ever going to say that.
But, like, have you seen, like, shows... Like, I saw The Cow and Chicken... like a while ago, and I realized it wasn't that great.
Yeah, that show is
like it hasn't held up that well.
It doesn't hold up at all.
Cow and Chicken was the Johnny Test of our time.
Pretty much.
Invader Zim still holds up, though.
It holds up a little bit too well, actually.
Yeah.
I think the show was made to appeal to a little bit of an older audience. It'll hold up better. Like,
yeah.
Powerpuff Girls, as much as I don't want to talk about Powerpuff Girls right now, it had stuff in there that would appeal to older people. So that's why you'll kind of go back and watch it and be like, okay, so this show...
I went back and watched the episode of Powerpuff Girls where they learned to cuss.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That was the greatest.
I like when shows used to have that kind of, like, they'd be like, we're going to tackle stuff like swearing and racism.
Usually it's because the parents would be sitting right there with them. And you're like, well, we can't have the parents watch the show with the kids and all that stupid garbage, so, you know, they gave it real-world situations.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to watch TV shows with my kids, because I'm going to be like, my brain is dying.
Dude,
observing this.
There's too many references to, like, adult crap in kids shows now.
Like, oh, it was even worse back in the 90s.
Good point.
Yeah,
it was better hidden in the 90s. It was better hidden, like, in the cartoon.
Better hidden. There was an episode of Rocko's Modern Life where, like, he straight up worked for a sex line.
Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy were two shows that weren't originally on Nickelodeon.
No.
Ended up on Nickelodeon.
What about that episode of Animaniacs where they, like, you saw them, like, be drunk while driving a car?
Yeah.
Oh, and the one where they're like, we're supposed to be looking for fingerprints, and Dot looks at Prince and she goes, I don't think so.
Yeah. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, the fingerprints joke, and she's like, no, I don't think so. And throws them out window.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Like, well, that's because Animaniacs it was one of those satire shows that made references to stuff that only, you know, our parents would get. And then would have the little kiddie jokes every now and then.
Same thing with Looney Tunes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure Animaniacs ever truly cared.
Yeah.
I just did what it did. That's back when they could do whatever they wanted. Because
I don't know. Looney Tunes was more like slapstick humor, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was more violent.
Hey, you guys remember Looney Tunes? What was it? Young Looney Tunes with the blue and pink.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, the blue and pink versions of like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
One of them is Lola Bunny.
Yeah, one of them was Lola.
That wasn't a name though. She had like a different name.
I'm pretty sure it was Lola.
I'm gonna look it up because we have this cool thing called the internet.
I think it was like their kids or whatever.
Oh, was it their kids?
They were definitely not their kids. I think they were like, because they looked up to them as if they were mentors.
Because the grandma was younger.
Wasn't it Tiny Toons or something?
Yeah, I think it might have been Tiny Toons.
The one with like the green duck and Blue Rabbit.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Looney Tunes, you remember the Lunatics? I think it's what it's called. Well, like where they're like the action. They're basically the Power Rangers.
That was stupid.
Babs. Her name was Babs.
Oh my god.
Babs and Buster.
Yeah, so like it was like their
Yeah.
kids or something.
Yeah, wow.
That was Tiny Toons, yeah.
It was weird. But I still watched it when I came home every day. Cause
It was on when he came home as why.
Yeah, nothing else was on.
like, I'm not gonna go to
Nothing. There were no other channels.
You kids are gonna go to school, or you're gonna suffer through Tiny Toons.
I'm gonna make you watch Tiny Toons instead of Looney Tunes.
That's why I
Because Tiny
just
Toons is more appropriate. Even though it's not.
I want like an episode of like the new Looney Tunes show to talk about all the horrible stuff that was in the old Looney Tunes show, like the blatant racism, the outrageous amounts of violence, like all kinds of just crazy stuff. Like, well,
Bugs just walks into the kitchen and is like, Daffy, you remember that time that you got shot in the face because I tricked a guy into shooting you in the face?
Good times.
You remember that frog?
The dancing, singing frog.
The WB frog?
Yeah. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Yes.
That one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the super
The one that
frog.
just would.
Sung
And like
against
the
white-
guy tried to prove that he could sing and dance, and every time he tried to show somebody, the frog wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
frog would just stand there and ribbit.
It's one of my favorite Looney Tunes things. Whatever. It's one of my favorite Looney Tunes things ever. And
Yeah, that is
like,
true.
All
I
right.
pulled up a list of the best 90s cartoons to go off of. Just
Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Starting off the top is Tiny Toon Adventures, which we just went through,
Yeah.
and the next one is Bobby's World, which I never saw.
Yeah, what is Bobby's World?
What is Bobby's
think-
World?
Wasn't Howie Mandel like one of the voice actors for that?
I don't know.
I know,
Yeah, he was. It says right here he was, which is kind of weird.
That's interesting.
Bobby's World.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I've literally never seen that show in my life.
Nope.
Tailspin. I've never seen that either.
Wait,
I
wait.
heard. I never
I had heard of it, yeah.
What did you say?
Tailspin.
Okay. I've heard of it. I never watched it.
The description is Baloo, the bear from the Jungle Book, is
Oh.
cast as a 1930s Pacific Islands bush pilot.
That sounds way less than fun.
Yes, okay. I saw one episode of that, or part of it, or whatever.
The picture is like a little bear in a plane.
Yeah.
Just for
Aw. Bears. Bears can't fly planes.
And the bear is just like looking at the plane like, huh.
Could you imagine how horrifying that would be if bears could fly planes?
jump out and eat us all. Like,
Bears can fly anyway. I mean,
You know,
it doesn't matter.
if there's anything a threat to us, it probably has wings.
there's those bears that fall out of trees and stuff. I forgot about that.
Yeah, did you guys know that? You know what I found out? Snakes can fly. Like,
That is
snakes can
horrifying.
actually fly.
Keep telling us that.
I couldn't believe
God.
that.
It's like
Anyway.
so genuinely horrified by the fact that snakes have the ability to fly.
How can you not be horrified? Like, I was gonna apply to Harvard Med School, but I guess not now since snakes can fly.
Oh man, you guys, you remember when that guy died like a few days ago, or like literally 2 days ago?
People die all the time. You have to be more specific.
Which guy?
Especially since I help them along 50% of the time. You're going to be way more specific.
This was not one of your times, I think. It was. I have Twitter. You see.
Is it that Corey Monteith kid?
Yeah, Corey Monteith.
Whatever.
It was heroin and alcohol.
Really?
That
Yeah.
was totally Illuminati.
Mixed drug toxicity.
That sounds so much like an Illuminati murder. It's not even funny. Like all Illuminati murders like follow the same format. It's like drug addiction, but the details were like very vague about it.
Yeah, like when Heath Ledger died.
Yeah.
I still don't even know how Heath Ledger died.
The Illuminati.
Exactly.
He was
It was-
just so into his character.
I'm telling you, it was Tom Hardy. And he was like, well, if I don't kill him, then they're not going to hire me because the next Batman movie is just going to be about Joker again. so I gotta kill him.
You all should check out the Joker blogs on YouTube. They're amazing.
They're so good.
I showed them the camera, and now he's hooked.
I showed them to my brother, and my brother was watching them too.
Yeah, they're really good. Like, the guy does a really good Heath Ledger Joker impression. It's amazing.
The voice acting is not the greatest, but his body language is so... It's amazing.
Like,
Speaking of amazing, the next cartoon is Doug.
Doug.
Doug was a good...
Doug was amazing.
It was a good show.
Remember when it made the switch from like Nick to Disney
yeah.
and the quality dropped?
Oh,
Yeah.
Wasn't the show was like literally about nothing? Like it was.
Yeah,
Just,
it was literally about nothing.
it's a show about nothing.
The
How do
show...
we know when it's over?
It was a show about Doug's life. That's the show.
Show that we
I like-
relate. It's nothing.
And everybody was like these weird colors, like they fell into like an acid pit or something.
Yeah,
Like,
because
they're
they were
all
all
just,
dead.
What they never showed you is that the town was cut off from the rest of society by barricades because they're all freaking mutants.
Did you say barricades?
Yeah.
Like flying barricades?
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god.
I will drop you from the call, I swear to God.
I don't get the reference, but it's okay.
Flying bears.
Oh,
They're
okay.
bringing them back.
Oh, that was the last cartoon. This is a new cartoon.
Oh,
Speaking of new cartoons, the next cartoon is Ren and Stimpy.
I never watched too much Ren and Stimpy, actually.
Neither have
I
I.
went back and watched it recently just because I was curious as to how like vulgar it actually was.
I
That was
wasn't
very
allowed to
vulgar.
watch it.
Even on even on like Nickelodeon,
Yeah, they did not play.
when they edited out a whole bunch of stuff, it's still pretty bad.
You
Like,
can
I think
like
that's
if you can't edit out the show too much because if you edit out every bad part, then you literally will not have a show anymore.
just have like the intro song and then the credits and then that's Ren and Stimpy. If you just
Can
edit
you
out-
even have the credits though?
I don't need.
Yeah, they probably don't want their names attached to something so horrible.
How did
The
that
show has
show
a pretty
even
big
make it?
cult following though.
Yeah, it does. I don't understand why.
I
Just
don't
because
know.
of how like off the wall the show was as well.
Like Ego Raptor loves it. He made an animation that was like based off of the style of it.
I can see why people like it though,
Oh.
because
What was that show? Beaver, or like the two beavers?
Angry Beavers.
Angry
Angry-
Beavers.
Angry Beavers. I enjoyed that show.
I was in 3rd grade. Snoot was my every other word. I loved that show so much.
I enjoyed that one.
It was
It
yeah,
was-
I remember it's pretty funny.
I remember it. But, like, yeah, I love that show.
Speaking of loving shows, the
God.
next show is Darkwing Duck.
Nice transitions.
These are the greatest transitions.
Oh, I know, so many segues.
It's so like this flow into the next thing. It's like I can't even tell what we're talking about.
Instead
Yeah.
of a show about boring ducks that no one cared about, remember Danny Phantom?
Yes.
Who?
That is true.
Danny
He's that-
Phantom.
He's that dude with the ghost powers, I guess. He did ghost
Spider-Man?
stuff. Yeah, Spider-Man.
Trying to
That's
get us
basically
out.
who he is. Just ghost powers.
I mean,
His power was being half dead.
Yeah, it really was.
His- He just kept it from his parents, like, it's okay, you guys didn't kill me, like, all the way.
His parents were ghost hunters.
Yeah, so
Oh,
they were like, well, we killed him, but we're not done
Yeah.
killing him.
Like technically, he died in that explosion because well, not explosion, but when the machine went haywire, he died in it.
Yeah, they say he's half ghost, but, like, he can clearly use his ghost powers outside of his ghost form.
Yeah, so he's kind
He
of
is-
all ghost.
He is a dead man.
It's like
and didn't his parents find out he was a ghost in one episode?
like the very last episode where he finally.
Well, no, they find out in one, and they're like, oh my god, how did we never see it before? His name is Danny Phantom, and our names are Danny Fenton. Like, really? And then as soon as that episode was over, he uses, like, some kind of weird reality warp to, like, undo it.
The power was called Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, it's called retcon.
Yeah.
Speaking of Deus Ex Machina.
No, wait, hold up. The greatest thing I've seen is there's a side-by-side picture of Danny Phantom and Timmy Turner. and all the characters look like they're just grown up versions of it's called Very Odd Parents.
That's the greatest thing you've ever seen?
No, but I'm saying it is.
I've seen like the child being born. I'm pretty sure that's a lot later than.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm being very literal with
You
you.
didn't see it for long, did you?
I'm just saying the greatest thing I've seen about Danny Phantom is that little connection.
Are you sure? Because the show is pretty great.
Oh, okay, we're done with this. Go ahead and segue.
Speaking of being Cameron being done with things, the next show is Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Man, I don't even remember that show.
That was like C-Lab, and then like
Talk show.
it evolved.
Wasn't it a talk show? I remember seeing it on Adult Swim a couple of times.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the shows that take like childhood heroes or whatever, and then like make them into like something they're not. Like when C-Lab did like C-Lab in general.
C-Lab was just like dubbing over an old show.
Yeah,
And, like,
and then whoever wrote C-Lab was like, I'm gonna start animating my own show, and that's how Archer happened.
But the bug guy on Space Ghost Coast to Coast is like on television now because he does the Cartoon Planet thing.
yeah, him and like
Oh yeah.
mask guy.
You know, it'd be weird for people that grew up with like Space Ghost Coast to Coast to see the original Space Ghost, because they'd be like, oh no, they're supposed to be talk show hosts.
Yeah,
I
like this-
assume it would be as weird as like the people who grew up with the original Space Ghost being like, why is he a talk show host now?
For people that don't even know who they are, they just see them on Cartoon Planet. Like, what is this?
Yeah, that would be me.
Space
That would be
Coast
me.
to Coast talk show host. He hosts the roasts. Boast, most, rhymes.
the space ghost with the most.
Speaking of Space Ghost with the most, the next show.
What? How did you not use Danny Phantom as a transition for Space
Yeah.
Ghost?
Like those kind of fit together too well.
Speaking of fitting together well, the next show is The Tick.
Speaking of putting together well, this transition.
How about you just send me that list and I'll do the transitions? You just say transition and I'll find
The
something.
list is too hard to find.
Ding, turn the page.
Ding! Turn. Flip the tape over when it finishes.
Like someone could have said something about time and you could have said, speaking of time, the tick.
How does time and The Tick relate?
That was such a
Clocks.
bad transition, Jordan.
You know what? You're a bad transition.
Thinking about the pursuit versus The Tick.
Anyway, the tick. Did anyone watch that show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good show. It was it was a satire on superheroes. Was in that show.
Yeah, I never actually saw it.
I didn't either.
What is satire like on superheroes anymore?
It's just I don't like. It's hard to explain, but the television show does it like so well. I can't really explain it, but like for instance, there was like one like they have like exaggerated characters. Like one of the villains was like Chair Face Man, and his head was like a chair, and he was the villain.
Slow down, hold on. Are you telling me Chairface Man had a chair for a face?
Yeah, like it was an actual chair for a face.
Interesting.
I never really expected that.
Yeah, I would have kind of hoped for like a couch or something.
Or love seat.
Like
It probably had that
go
as
big
well.
or go home. Really.
His little catchphrase in the series was like he would just randomly shout out spoon in the show for some reason.
Spoon?
How do
Yeah, that was his catchphrase in the show, which I guess.
How was his catchphrase not like "You're really starting to tick me off"? Like the
Because
tick.
because then it wouldn't really be a satire anymore.
Yeah, because it'd just be directly like, oh, this is straight up.
Well, I mean that is satirical to have like a dumb catchphrase like
But-
every
but
other.
superheroes already have dumb catchphrases though, so
Yeah,
it
like-
wouldn't be as satirical.
I'm Spider-Man and you just got bit.
Like
That's
if he's
something he would
just-
probably say.
Yeah. Like I'm summoning spiders because I'm Spider-Man.
I
He's
mean-
done that before, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
He, Spider-Man was very corny when he first got his powers anyways.
Speaking of Spider-Man, the next show is Spider-Man.
Yes!
Finally! Transition.
You didn't need to transition for something that's already transitioned.
Alright.
Yes, you did.
No, shut up, it worked. God.
Oh.
Which Spider-Man are we talking here? The one from the 1990s?
1994 TV series.
That one was probably the best. That one had the best ending.
Are you kidding?
Did it end? He only threw like 3 punches.
That show, the
Yeah, 'cause he
animation
went,
in
like-
that show was so stiff, though. It was like,
But, like, guys, it was all worth it because the very last, like, 10 episodes were, like, him with, like, 6 other Spider-Men. And then the last one is, like, he goes to the real world and he meets, like, Stan Lee.
oh, I saw that one.
Yeah.
But
Because
like,
Stan Lee has to put himself in literally
my
everything.
problem with that show is that Peter in the very beginning was like our age, but he was built like The Rock.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was
yeah,
so-
that is messed up. Like, what are you? You're a high school nerd, but you're, like, the manliest man I've ever seen. Your body is shaped like Batman's.
Like, I don't even see why he needed superpowers. He could probably crush my
Like, nobody would mess with him in high school if he looked like that. Is the problem.
Also, I feel like Peter Parker's thing, like, isn't really a good enough, like, problem nowadays. Like, nobody gets picked on for being a smart kid.
Yeah,
anymore.
that's horrible.
They're like, please God, help me with my homework so I don't fail everything ever.
And my life will be a complete mess in the future.
Like,
yeah,
nowadays,
people think about.
breathing into the mic.
No.
That's very disruptive of you. How rude. We were just talking about the 1990s.
I remember that.
1990s.
Speaking of the 1990s,
Look at that haircut, Torrin.
that's not what I was gonna say.
Who's going to the bathroom?
Hey, I said no piss breaks.
Where's going to the bathroom?
What?
Who's going to the bathroom?
Who went to the bathroom?
You.
You never
Well,
said
I'll
no
just
piss
clear off
breaks.
my fan.
That was
Oh.
not a thing that you said.
I told
No,
Sean.
that's what the kid said.
You told one of the
I
four
told-
other people in this call.
I told one of the 4. I figured everyone else would just know about it by then.
What? You just assumed that I wouldn't know
If you
about
tell
it?
one of us that ugly means that we're all going to know, even though you only told it to one of us.
Do you have a
Yes.
hive mind? Do you expect us to read your mind?
Not
I
my-
mean, I actually knew that because I live by that principle.
Because I was thinking, like, halfway through this, you guys would be in the middle of a conversation and I could leave and get a drink.
Well, that's a drink.
gotta
That's a
drink
drink
something.
break. I didn't say that. I said no piss breaks.
Well, what if I just came back from getting a drink and I was like, I'm going to piss now?
I said no pissing.
Why would you have
You
to
know what?
be-
I'm going to go pee right now.
Have fun.
Great.
I am getting up right now. You guys have fun with whatever. I'll be back.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and finish up the Spider-Man conversation while he's gone before he has a chance to come
Speaking of peeing, we're still on Spider-Man.
back. Yeah.
Talk about
Yeah.
stuff I'd rather be doing, right?
See? But like, super buff Spider-Man was like just so they could sell action figures to little
Was he even picked on in the series?
like once by Flash, and then he like got the black suit and punched Flash in the dick, and then
Like, why would you pick? Peter is just as he looks as buff, if not buffer than Flash.
plus he actually has superpowers, so he's even stronger than Flash.
But Flash doesn't know that. But Flash still looks up to Spider-Man without knowing that it's actually Peter.
Yeah, like
It's a man crush.
Are we done with Spider-Man?
Yes, choose
Yeah.
choose another one on the list.
How about that?
There's a list?
There's a list that he has.
I have the list pulled up.
Austin got
Really?
that's nice.
What about Johnny Bravo?
Johnny Bravo.
That was about segregation.
I wasn't
Well,
allowed to
like-
watch that show, really.
You want
What
to
shows were you allowed to watch?
Yeah.
Not very many.
Were you like?
see?
How are we going to discuss the 1990s if you weren't there for most of it?
Because I rewatched a bunch of them.
Are you allowed to watch them now, though?
I'm allowed to watch it. Yes, of course. Why not?
Do the monkey with me.
You're a grown man. Who's gonna stop you from watching children's
Mom.
cartoon?
Seriously.
He's only 18.
Yeah, his mom would stop anyway.
She'll kick him out the house.
That is tragic.
Ain't watching Private Girls in my house.
Anyway, Johnny Bravo. I thought it was pretty funny. It was more like slapstick kind of humor, though. It was mostly just him hitting on women and getting slapped.
I see
Yeah.
that show gets all the shows, but it's like he gets immediately then beat his ass. Like,
I think it was a show to help increase feminism.
Yeah, actually, there were a lot of comments about that.
like, look at this man. Isn't he such a pig?
Well, not really like that. It was just like every time he would do something like disrespectful, like everyone in the show would clearly like be mad at him for it.
Especially the women.
There were a
But he
few
was
other
too dumb
characters.
to realize.
There were a few other characters that showed up, and they were like polite and respectful to everyone, and they got a lot of respect for it. So I think subconsciously it was going for that.
You know who worked on that
It
show?
was extremely
Seth
anti.
MacFarlane worked on that.
Seth
Yeah.
MacFarlane wrote most of the screenplays for that show.
He's pretty good at satire.
Yeah. Aren't you so glad you're like his body double?
I'm not his body double.
You're basically the same person.
No, I'm not. No,
So that means you're basically Johnny Bravo.
I don't want to be Johnny Bravo. That's the last thing that I want to be.
Really? Because he had massive pecs.
That doesn't excuse anything.
That's another thing that got me about Johnny Bravo when I was a kid. Like, he's this super muscly dude, but he still gets beat up by all
Yeah,
these
like you can't really connect this show to real life. Dexter's Laboratory is the next show.
Dexter's Laboratory is still one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And
that's
Dark
the one that I
was
remember.
Mandark.
And, yeah.
It's
The most annoying laugh in the entire world.
That's how he lived his life, though, to that beat.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird.
I actually really like that episode.
That was a good episode.
That's the best. Shoot,
I like the episode with the talking dog.
Dude, no, I like...
Du fromage.
Du fromage.
Popular du fromage! Popular du fromage!
And then after it came on, everybody in school started saying it like they were like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Repeating it.
I think my favorite episode is when he got like that girl, not really secret admirer girl, but that admirer who had the super huge eyes, and they went through the whole musical thing where he's like, "Why won't you leave me alone with your giant freakish eyes?"
No,
And then she ends up finding somebody else who also has giant freakish eyes, and they walk off like the sunset together or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, now I'm jealous."
yeah. One of my favorite episodes was the one where the monkey got superpowers.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then he fought like.
yeah.
Remember when he fought the
They
duck?
all had
Yes.
that segment?
Yes.
Remember when he fought the duck, and then the duck turned out to be a girl, and then like they made out and then did it in this labyrinth.
Yes, it's so messed up.
Like they don't even like they imply that they did it because they just wake up the next morning in the same bed or whatever. It was
Yeah.
so.
I remember the episode where like Dexter was afraid to go to the back of the bus, and like when we went to the back of the bus, it was like filled like
Oh,
gum everywhere.
Yeah.
and then the kid was just stuck there for
Yeah.
You know why? I'm pretty sure Dexter's thought process that the whole beginning of the episode was like, "Why am I going to the back of the bus? I am not black."
I am
Don't-
superior.
Damn it.
Justice for Trayvon.
Oh God!
People started saying like their names and stuff that I am Trayvon, and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing ever.
Speaking of Trayvon Martin,
Little
What's
Bill
Little Bill.
yes.
or Static Shock, take your pick.
Static Shock. Let's go
Static
Static
Shock.
Shock.
Sorry, Little Bill.
Advertised by Team Now.
I could say pudding pop.
Did you see that thing floating around where like everybody thought that new Black Lightning show on Cartoon Network was going to be like Static Shock 2.0?
There's a Black Lightning show on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, there's like some show where like this dude's in like his 30s or whatever. His name's Black Lightning, and he has 2 kids named Thunder and Lightning.
Oh my god.
I feel like that might be a reference to Static Shock.
No, because Black Lightning was around before Static Shock, and Static Shock came after, and it just turns out that like all black people are like electric powers. Which explains Electro in the new Amazing Spider-Man movie.
Yo, Sean, can I bottle you?
Oh, you can't bottle lightning.
It's because
sure?
black people have high voltage.
I watch a lot of anime.
Does it ever turn out well when they bottle lightning?
Yes.
Oh, well
Speaking
then,
of thunder and lightning,
bottle
Jeez.
essence Sean sprayed on your women.
What?
speaking of thunder and lightning, Teen Titans, because there were those 2 villains that were named Thunder and Lightning.
You've been talking about Static Shock.
You can't transition so fast.
Isn't
Yes,
there
we
like
can.
isn't Static Shock in like Young Justice along with the Teen Titans?
Yes.
So let's talk about Young Justice then.
Well, the thing about I want to talk about Static Shock because it like crossed over with so many other shows. Like,
Yeah,
he
Yeah, it did do a really good job of that.
came out with like
Yeah,
Batman, Superman, the Justice League.
Batman
Black
Beyond.
He fought Brainiac.
And that
Fought
one,
with Black Panther, that was pretty sick.
what was that one show they crossed over with that had like the robot in it?
The what?
The robot in it, like,
Brainiac?
no. Hold on.
Which robot are you talking about?
Like it was like an animated robot that had his own show, and it crossed over with Static Shock.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Oh, you know what? You might be talking about the robot that was in like an episode of Batman Beyond that got its own show.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Where he like he can like camouflage himself or whatever.
God, I know that robot's name, but I don't know it.
I was watching an
I
episode.
don't know.
I was watching an episode of Static Shock where he goes to the future and meets Terry McGinnis, the future Batman, or whatever. And
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, the future you has been captured by like the Serpent Clan.
And the future him like is basically he's wearing the same costume like
No,
one of the
future
world's.
him is wearing Black Lightning's costume, the actual Black Lightning's costume.
Oh.
Yeah, and then we only see older him do one thing, even though they've hyped up older Static Shock to be like the baddest dude in the entire world.
Didn't he like zap everybody in
It
the
was
no?
It was called the Zeta Project. The Zeta
Yeah.
Project.
Zeta, that's the robot.
But like older Static like just gets piled on by a bunch of dudes, and then he just zaps them, and then that's it.
Like young Static Shock did that.
Young Static Shock does that repeatedly, but everybody's like, "Oh, you can't measure up to the older Static Shock," and like you didn't do anything.
Like, what does it matter if he's going to be the older Static Shock? Of
Yeah.
those guys?
Like Terry
Like-
kept giving him crap. He's like, "Oh, you."
And Terry doesn't have much room to talk either. He messes up stuff all the time.
Yeah. How are you gonna measure up to the original Batman, Terry?
With money and bitches.
I feel like that's what it was. Terry was just super insecure. He's like, whatever. If I can't be the Batman, then you can't be yourself 30 years from now.
It was basically Jason Todd minus the dying. That's what he's doing.
Terry was
Why
much.
does everyone threw around my last name so often.
I
Oh
felt
my
like
gosh.
Terry was more responsible than Jason Todd, though, in a lot of
Well, yeah,
ways.
that's what I'm saying. But I mean, like Terry was like a bad kid when he met up with Batman, and that's how Jason Todd was. And that kind of reformed him.
Terry was Spider-Man now,
No, he wasn't.
because his parents were killed like in a similar way.
If you are in a superhero anything, your parents are probably dead. That does not make him Spider-Man.
Well, he was also very snarky.
What superhero isn't?
The ones that are built like triangles.
The
Superman-
apprentices.
There's like the triangle ones, and then there's the ones that have like cylinder bodies. And the cylinder body ones are always snarky.
Terry was super built like a triangle.
Yeah, he was.
Well, it
Like-
depends.
Yeah, he was. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Because the one in Justice League Unlimited was like extremely buff.
yeah. Because like he was like even when he was a teen, his shoulders were ridiculously broad.
Unrealistic expectations for men. I'm calling menism.
He could sit like 2 women on each shoulder. Like that's how big his shoulders were.
That's
So Batman
ridiculous.
Beyond was basically Iron Man, yeah?
Pretty much, just without the chest laser. and better character development.
That we know of.
Unibeam.
Like, that show got
I thought
canceled.
Batman
You never
Beyond
know.
was a lot darker
They could have been planning
than
one.
Iron Man.
Yeah, Batman Beyond was a lot darker than Iron Man. It's a lot darker.
Batman Beyond
Yeah.
had the whole like mutant thing going on where people like experiment with their bodies and stuff.
The
And it was illegal, but no one did anything about it.
They had like people who like morph into like mutants and animals and stuff.
Yeah, like when Shock went to the future, he saw like a lizard man, and he asked Terry, he's like, that can't be illegal, and he's like, it's not. So, and, like, they went
But
with-
nobody
Yeah.
does anything about it because,
Like,
like, there's so much crime everywhere else.
One episode we saw with ink in it, where the guy was like trying to free
Yeah.
Age.
Yeah.
Ink
Like
gave
that was
him
super
powers.
dark. Yeah.
That one was.
Batman Beyond as a concept is dark because it means that after everything Batman has done, you know, Bruce Wayne, everything he's done for Gotham, not a thing has changed. If anything, it's gotten worse.
It's also pretty dark because, like, I guess it's also kind of hopeful, but, like, it's dark in that all the superheroes you know and love will eventually be too old to do anything.
Except Superman, obviously.
Well, at least in Batman Beyond, the police system was better.
Sort of, kind of.
Not
Yeah,
really.
But that's because Batgirl was in charge of the police.
Like, the police were more accepting of Batman, but the reason they never seemed to be around is because they were always taking care of something else. So they were
Yeah.
being more effective while at the same time still not being very effective at all.
Yeah.
It was also visually dark.
Yeah.
It wasn't dark metaphorically. It was just physically dark.
Like,
I feel like
the
that show
sun
never was there.
the sun was, like, never shown in that show at all.
And what it was like when Terry was like,
It was,
Yeah, it
just,
was like sunset.
it was Terry at school. That's the only time the sun was
yeah,
ever.
that's what I was about to say. And that pink
Wow,
haired
the
black
darkest place, and there's.
You remember when they went raving and, like, that was basically like, we don't feel like coloring these characters very well, but we need the plot to advance, so we're just gonna make them completely blue and have music playing in the background?
Yeah.
Well, that's how it was in Return of the Joker. Like, Terry kept kind of, like, dance or whatever, and everybody was all one color. And then he got attacked by the Jokers, and it was crazy. Like,
And he didn't go on like that date with that girl he was seeing.
Yeah, Dana.
Yeah, like every time he tried to go out with her, each time in the series, something.
Or
would
should
pop
I
up.
say Mary Jana?
No, shut up.
No.
See Spider-Man?
Shut up. Remember, like, in the last, like, one of the last episodes of Justice League Unlimited, she had been like, you know, we've been dating for, like, 15 years. And I was like, are
Literally
you
15
serious?
years,
Like,
and she still doesn't know.
Tie the knot!
well, I think
What do you do?
by then she found out, but he still didn't want
Me really busy.
Yeah.
For 15 years.
That's what he always
How is
said.
he even still alive? How is Bruce Wayne still alive?
Because he's stubborn. That's why.
Because he's Batman.
I remember watching an episode of Batman Beyond, like, for a few episodes when I was younger, and I was like, wait a minute, where's Alfred? And then it dawned on me that this is the future, and Alfred is probably...
Oh no.
Do you think they kept Alpha's like butler suit in the same like station where they kept the Robin suits and stuff?
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Speaking
No,
of
they
Alfred,
did.
speaking of Alfred, I watched, like, 2 minutes of Beware of the Batman, and I saw Alfred, and he looked like Lex Luthor. But, like, so the entire time, I'm like, is this Lex Luthor? Why is he in Gotham City? He's like, no, it's Alfred. And I was furious. Alfred they had in here was like this super buff dude who looked just like Lex Luthor.
Wow.
It was the worst.
Is that show any good, by the way?
No, it's garbage.
Okay.
DC does this thing where they're like, hey, remember how you like everything we do? And then people are like, no, and they're like, good, we're gonna continue to do that.
How is it that DC's animated movies are phenomenal, but like when they try to change something up in one of their regular cartoons on Cartoon Network, it's just terrible. Like Young
That's
Justice
because-
is the only exception.
I think that's because in the movies they have like complete say over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like complete independence.
Man, I love comics, but also fuck comics.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I love comics. Hate the cartoons.
like that's why I didn't watch the Green Lantern animated series show. It just looked.
That was super dumb.
Yeah, that was some bad animation style. It
Yeah.
looked childish.
It was
Yeah.
like,
CGI.
let's try to use CG, but make it not look CG.
Yeah. Like everybody kept trying to force CG on everything, like the Star Wars Clone Wars show.
Yeah, no, that was
Oh.
fine when it was a cartoon.
Yeah. Seriously, like the people who made Samurai Jack made a mini series for the Clone Wars, and it was the most badass thing I've ever seen. Like, it was amazing. They had entire short episodes where it's just the Jedi fighting entire armies single-handedly. Like there's a part where Mace Windu takes out an entire army in a field all by himself.
Is that before or after he gets his head cut off? That's not him. That's the Fett. That's Jango Fett. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. Is that before or after he falls out of a window?
Before?
I feel better now that I've redeemed myself.
At least you caught it before someone.
Yeah,
said
as I
that.
was saying head cut off, I was like, that's not Mace Windu. He did the head cutting off.
Like,
Yeah.
Have you guys ever wanted to really badly own a Segway?
No.
Like the things that mall cops drive around?
No,
No.
I'd rather just own a car.
I need a Segway though. I need one.
Segway. You have legs.
Yeah, but I don't like to use them.
You have legs.
I don't like to use
You
them.
have legs.
Speaking of legs,
Here
Spider-Man.
it goes.
Rugrats.
Okay,
Hey.
That was the shit.
I guess. I guess that worked. The characters do technically have legs.
As far as we know.
And they don't use them.
Remember the episode where Tommy was kidnapped?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
No.
It was a real deal. Like, Tommy got kidnapped by a couple dudes, but they couldn't take care of him long enough to get the money, so they
Oh.
just gave him back.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is terrifying.
That's a
Yeah,
common
it's-
plot line where somebody steals a baby, but they end up regretting stealing the baby because the baby is so annoying to handle.
Like, really, if you're gonna kidnap a child, you need to make sure that you are a responsible person. You can take care of a child long enough to get your money.
What was
I'm sure
that?
that's what they're thinking about before they steal the child.
What was that one short story we read that had the child got kidnapped and never returned because the parents hated the kid so
Like,
much?
where you going? Where have you been?
Yeah.
Shows up outside
Oh,
her house.
yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to go. And he's like, well, I could be nice. Like, we can be
Wait,
nice
you're talking about the one where the dude rapes and kills her.
Pretty much.
Not the parents didn't want her.
No, that's not the one I'm talking
that
about at all.
Sounds like a horrifying episode of the Rugrats.
No, it ended up with her, like, leaving the house.
I don't
Yeah.
want to be a part of that episode of
She
Rugrats.
left with the dude, and his friend, and it was probably one of the
And it had,
better
like-
stories we read.
Oh,
That was the short story where she was raped and killed.
That's not the one I'm talking about.
That is terrifying.
But
The
oh
guy's
well.
last name was, like, Friend or something.
Yeah, like he was there with his friend who didn't even say anything, and
Oh, yeah.
he changed the radio or something, and he yelled at his friend, and it was so weird. But the dude was like, if you go back there and pick up that phone, I'll be allowed to come in the house. And it was like, oh my god, that's so weird.
No,
Do you
he
guys remember
said-
that time? Do you guys
said-
remember that time when All Grown Up happened?
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember when they changed the name of the show from All Growed Up to All Grown Up?
Yeah.
Bro, the-
Like, oh my god. That show
I
was awful.
beat the game for
There's a game for it? Oh, I
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I beat it in like a day.
Yeah.
I remember in All Grown Up, they were in 5th grade, and there was like an episode where they kept talking about this standardized test that 5th graders had to take. So I thought I was going to have to take it, so that made me nervous to be in the 5th grade.
Was it 5th grade?
I thought it was high
Yeah,
school.
they were.
They looked so much older than 5th grade.
I thought they were in high school.
Yeah, they were in high school.
I thought Tommy was like 8th grade, and like Angelica and Susie were like sophomore year of high school.
Yeah,
I'm
something,
gonna
something
go
like
back and
that.
watch. I think if you go back and watch it now, they'll look a lot younger.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Usually how it goes.
Oh, dude, they were in I think Angelica and Susie were in 8th grade, and Tommy and them were in 6th grade.
Let's use the power of the internet to find out.
Looking it up.
Fuck the internet. I don't talk short.
Yeah, it's 5th grade.
It
Is
is.
it?
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I just remember his older brother still being as annoying as he was in the first series.
Older brother?
His younger brother, sorry.
Dill pickle.
Yeah, Dill was
Dill was
annoying.
weird.
He was annoying when he was a little kid, and he's even more annoying when he got older.
No,
They
dude,
should
Dill
have
was
they should have
cool.
just made Dill a mute.
I think Dill was like a premature birth or something. I think that's what they're going for. One of those things they never outright said, but it was kind of implied.
In the movie, it was so bad because Tommy just left Dill for dead.
Oh my god, that was so messed up.
I mean, he's a baby. He's not gonna know it's a problem.
He's like,
He doesn't know what death is. He's an infant.
he was like, fine, Dill, if you don't want to come with me, I'll leave you here, and just leaves Dill crying in the
Because
mud.
Dill's a baby and Tommy's a baby, and neither of them understand that if they don't get back to their parents, they're gonna die in the woods.
You remember that episode where Tommy and Chucky got locked in that toy store?
Yeah.
Like, that to me is like the most memorable episode for some reason. Because, like, everything, the imagery in that episode was, like, so, like, off the wall, like, creepy.
Oh man, do you guys remember that one episode where they were like on that island with the wild thornberries?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I do remember that.
I think that might have been a movie and not an episode, but
It was the
It
movie. It was.
a movie.
What's the name of that show again with the wild thornberries?
Yeah.
Wasn't it called The Wild Thornberries?
I
Cameron.
don't know.
No, it was called. It had wild in it. It was really big.
I think it was called Brog.
Yeah, that's it. How could I forget that?
Yeah.
Rocket Power.
It was called the wild
Oh,
thornberries.
Rocket Power.
That show.
That happened.
That show was. It was there.
So garbage.
It made me feel like a worse person for not being a skater.
Yeah, it made me
It
feel.
made me feel like I was not active.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, these kids literally never sit down.
Building
Cubies.
sandcastles.
They called, like, the people who, like, were scrubs in that series, they called them cubies.
Yeah.
Oh,
And basically, it was basically like if you were a white person, you were a Jew or whatever. It was like
as the ancient Hawaiians used to say, I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about.
ancient Hawaiians used to say, "Please don't take over our country."
The only thing I remember from Rocket Power is that one, like, animated special where they went to New Zealand or something.
I don't even remember
Oh,
that.
I remember that because they met the little girl who made the little footprints with her hand, and I was like, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
I remember the one where like it was like a 2-part episode where like they went skiing or whatever, and like the dad was like, Otto, you gotta stay inside because it's dangerous as shit outside. And Otto was like, "How? Okay, Dad." And then he went skiing and he broke his arm.
I remember that one.
I remember that one.
But my most memorable part of Rocket Power was every time they made burgers.
How often did they make burgers?
I was always super hungry when I watched it.
I remember most is when what's his name turned 11, and I was like, I can't wait till I turn 11. Then everybody will treat me with respect. I was
God.
And you turned 11 and nobody treated you with respect.
I was treated with even less respect.
God.
11
Okay.
11 is that age where everyone looks down at you because they're like, oh, you can do this now, so do this, but you can't do this.
Yeah, like you're not. Yeah.
What about the episode where, like, the nerd guy with the glasses, like, made a video game based on, like, the characters, and he gave everybody else, like, terrible stats?
Oh, dude, do you remember the one where they meet Tony Hawk or whatever, and they have like the glowing skateboards and stuff?
Oh yeah,
Super
I
weird.
remember that.
All right, no more rocket power.
Yeah. What's next?
Hold on, I exited out of that tab.
You know, we haven't talked about Tom and Jerry at all.
Wait,
Tom
what?
and Jerry isn't from the 1990s.
I don't care. It's a show that I watched when I was a kid all the time.
It was the only one you were allowed to watch.
Yeah.
It was,
I still watch that shit.
Violent.
dude. I use what I learned from that show to get away from my brother one time.
What, you hit him with an iron?
Well, no, we were running around. I opened the refrigerator, ducked
Did
under.
you slam his toe with a hammer?
I opened the freezer, ducked under the freezer, and kept running. My brother had to stop to close the freezer.
Oh.
him into sitting down on train tracks. Like
That's the only one I remember, honestly.
A bowling
Did you
ball.
put a bomb in his milk or something, and he just drank it and exploded?
Yes, that's exactly what I did. No, bowling
Oh
ball.
my god, you're a murderer. Call the police.
So we can talk about Pokemon, Digimon. This is the North Star. Sweet.
It's the North Star.
Oh man, Yu-Gi-Oh?
No.
Oh,
No.
man.
We can
Right,
talk about
there's a-
Mobile Suit Gundam.
You mean Pacific Rim?
You mean
No,
No, that
I
show.
mean Mobile Suit
I want to go
Gundam.
watch that movie.
It's a really good movie.
Pacific Rim? I'm going to watch it before I leave.
God, it was so good.
G Gundam, G Mobile Suit Gundam, which was like where they had the Gundams in the tournament fighting and everything. That was the coolest Gundam series.
Zoids?
What
is Zoids?
Zoids in the 1990s?
Zoids is not Gundams. Please, let's finish our talk about
And
Gundams.
Zoids are cool like Gundams.
But it came out 2001.
I don't care.
Let's finish.
Actually, the first Zoids came out in the 90s, like 99, I think.
How does that
How about
defeat
in
smell?
America, fool?
How does that taste?
We didn't really get
Say in
defeated.
America.
Yeah. Yeah, like Zoids Zero Century came out before Zoids Chaotic Century. And Zoids Zero Century didn't come out till like 2001, like you said.
Yeah, you know those like the Gundams that you build out of like the plastic parts and stuff?
I used to have those. I used to
I
build
have
out.
one.
My very first thing similar to that was actually a Zoid. It was like a pterodactyl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to
I
build
have a Russian
Zoids. I
Rhino.
just bought them already put together. Because I'm lazy.
We can talk about card captors.
Card Capture Sakura.
Yeah. That's the first anime I ever watched.
First one I watched was Monster Rancher.
First one I ever watched was Yu Yu Hakusho.
That was a good one.
Mine was Pokemon.
Screw.
White first.
I'm sorry.
My first
What?
anime
There's
was
an anime
Death
called
Note.
Samurai Pizza Cats?
What?
So apparently there is this show called Donkey Kong Country, and it was a CGI Donkey Kong show.
Really?
Yeah, I did never even do that.
Yeah, me either.
That's kind of disappointing.
How's it disappointing? Speaking of lists,
Speaking of lists, Santa Claus got
Got destroyed by Invader Zim.
Santa
speaking
Claus got sued because he ran Grandma over with a reindeer.
Oh my god, don't even bring that up. No.
Man, that was my favorite Christmas cartoon
That was
ever.
a good one.
I
Yeah.
hated it with such a passion. I don't know why. I've watched the entire thing, I think, twice, but I just hated it because I think I watched it at school. It was.
speaking of school, Recess.
Recess was a good show. I watched that one a lot.
Recess was weird. I
Yeah.
liked
It was like Rugrats.
like they had this horrible school, the school you still wanted to go to.
Yeah,
They-
because
yeah,
of the
they made it.
hierarchy.
Dude, freaking the kindergartens were all Indians? What?
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
I don't know. It's not really that memorable, but it was still.
I love the show because that's one of the only shows I got to watch, so.
That's more like more into the show than I have the actual show.
Like, I remember each character was kind of just like a stereotype.
Yeah.
It was The Breakfast Club as a cartoon.
Alright, we can't leave this without talking about Ed, Edd, and Eddie.
Who's your favorite?
Best cartoon of 90s? Ed, Edd, and Eddie.
Ed, Edd, and
I don't
Eddie.
want to talk about Ed, Edd, and Eddie.
Well, you can
Why
leave
not?
then.
Funnier than you?
No.
Ed, Edd, and Eddie's the best cartoon ever.
Oh my god, actually, there was that one really smart episode where they like explored the bounds of reality.
Man,
They were all smart episodes, though.
like,
But like they took the moon and they set it on the ground and they jumped through it like it was a hole.
ate it, and they took Jimmy's outline away and he melted.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Like, that was, oh my god, I love that show.
Like
So, which-
that episode and like the last one ever were like my The only two
The
that I
one-
can still watch.
So,
With the
like the
brother
movie
shows
one
up?
where Double D threw that punch at the very end, and it was
Yeah.
like such an awe-inspiring punch because it was so out of character for him to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts that a show could have, like, introduce no new characters, have zero character development, and still be one of the greatest shows ever.
The biggest
I
question of
thought
that
it had
show.
character development.
The biggest question of that show was what was underneath Double D's hat.
And, like,
His head.
Well,
His hair.
he, like, cancer or something. He's bald.
Yeah.
He was, like, losing his hair, so he only had, like, those two or three little strands coming out of the hat, but,
yeah.
like,
I assumed that, like, before they started calling him Sockhead, I thought that was his hair.
he just put a big white streak in his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I assumed too.
I mean,
And,
Eddie
like, he
didn't
had,
have
like-
any hair.
And his parents would just like leave him alone all the time because they were always busy.
Or dead.
He had, like, the saddest story of anybody in that show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
His parents did not want anything to do with him at all.
Where did they even go?
They have
Well-
jobs. They're rich. They're, like, big deal rich people.
Yeah, he had like the nicest house. out
Like,
of
no matter what, there were never any parents in that neighborhood.
There was, like, one time there was where Ed and Eddie all got in trouble.
Yeah.
And, you saw Eddie's dad had, like, a super buff arm and just grabbed.
Yes, I remember that.
I always wanted to eat a jawbreaker.
Not like a real jawbreaker, like that has physical limitations, like the tiny ones you get for Halloween. Like
I'm
a
talking
legit
about-
one that's actually
Talking
gonna
about,
break your
yeah,
jaw.
the giant jawbreakers. Like when they went to that bank and it was just full of different kinds of jawbreakers.
Yeah, I wanted to try all of them.
Like,
I
no,
didn't.
the funny thing is when I never heard of a jawbreaker until that show. I'm like, is that what jawbreakers actually look like? That's what I was thinking as a kid. I'm like,
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
how are you supposed to eat these?
By making your mouth expand. Duh.
That's how reality works.
Cartoon physics, duh.
Can't everyone do that?
Just break the fourth wall and do it, Cameron. Jeez, what are you, noob?
God.
Hey, audience.
So, who was your favorite character?
Ed, of course.
Ed.
Big, stupid, ridiculously powerful Ed.
Which
Oh.
Ed?
That episode where he dressed like the monster and thought he actually was the monster.
Yeah, and it was basically the coolest.
Which Ed are you talking about?
You're
He
retarded.
just explained it. I like.
There were three of them, as I recall.
It, yeah.
If they didn't have preferences, that show would have been called Ed, Ed, and Ed.
Yeah.
Then my favorite one was the con artist, Ed.
Eddie?
Yeah.
You're
The show
retarded.
could have gone by like Edward, Edward, and Edward.
Like, as they all grow up, call it Edward, and Edward.
Yeah.
Actually, it's possible that like there was like an Edward, an Edgar, and an Edwin.
You know, I made $20 because of that show.
Yeah? How'd you do that?
I got an idea from the show, did it in real life, and made $20 from it.
What was the idea?
It's called Well of Joy. You basically get a bucket, fill it with water, put candy in there. People pay 25 cents to scoop it up.
Yeah.
That's retarded.
It's retarded, but I got $20 off that.
That is completely retarded.
If you make money, is it really retarded?
Yeah,
Yes.
that people would spend money on that.
Yeah. That's the funny thing.
Well, it was a neighborhood. It was like a neighborhood like in the show. There's a cul-de-sac, and I just was like, hey, kids, come buy this stuff. I was a kid also, so it somehow worked.
You're like a grown, as opposed to being the grown man that you are now, selling children candy for 25 cents a pop.
See, I tried
I actually
that
think
once.
this was like
Got
really
arrested.
recent.
Yeah, no, this was back when I lived in England, which is what, 9 years
Oh,
ago?
that's why everyone's retarded.
10 years ago?
Whoa.
Did you even have teeth?
Hey, if you're
Yes.
from England, unsubscribe
Dude.
right
I lived on the military base, so everyone had teeth.
I don't have anything against English people except fuck you.
Yeah.
English people are actually pretty cool. I don't know what you
I
guys are
like
talking about.
I like English people, yeah.
They're,
I
I'm
know.
just joking around. I don't give a fuck.
I hate everybody equally. You're all gonna get killed by me one day.
Art, can you really kill the entire population?
Yeah.
You really trying to challenge me?
I am.
Come at me, bro.
So we shall end this podcast with Torn screaming. Go.
Where we put.